One of the greatest falsehoods of modern British politics is the public purse is safe in Conservative hands. As George Osborne slopes off from public office, he leaves the stain of a government imposed a decade of grueling austerity in the name of deficit reduction. All for naught, as he missed his own targets again and again. And yet, going into this election, it is Labour minus the party that oversaw repeated growth and reduced debt minus that carries the reputation of fiscal ineptitude. The 2015 general election, in many ways, became the apex of a conversation that has played out since the last Labour government. The Conservatives rammed home the myth that the British economy was wrecked not by bankers or a global crash but by Labour overspending, minus. And Labour fails to defend its record. 2 years on, the political climate and several of its key players are much changed. But with Labour trying to push public services onto the agenda, and the fresh uncertainty of Brexit, the issue of financial responsibility is as pressing as ever. As Theresa May and ministers paint a Corbyn victory as one of chaos and risk, now is the time. Labour to not only cast itself as a capable pair of hands but relentlessly jab at the Tories' blustering incompetence. Few things demonstrate this more than the Conservatives' record on welfare spending minus an area they have long claimed as their territory but in which they are in fact overseeing a culture of inept waste. Just look at disability benefits. We're told repeatedly that spending on welfare for disabled people is out of control. Yet the Department for Work and Pensions has gone nearly to 00M over budget in what it is paying to private firms to run the Personal Independence Payments Assessment System. The Conservatives have now spent 700M in taxpayers' money on these contracts alone, despite the fact the process is so flawed. 4 out of 5 rejection decisions are overturned at appeal. Or consider the government's flagship benefit reform, Universal Credit, 5 years behind schedule, with delays announced 7 times, and a price tag rising to a staggering 1/6. And with all that public money, it's still being plagued by administrative chaos and design flaws minus to the extent it's not only failing in its purpose of improving the benefit system but is actively creating more social and economic problems. The Trussell Trust found this week, UK's much criticized 6-week waiting period has led to mass emergency food parcels in areas where the full universal credit rollout has taken place. Food bank referral rates are now running at more than double the national average. This is on top of the debt, rent arrears and evictions UK is also causing. When families lose their homes because of government policy, where do they go? Increasingly, to emergency accommodation minus paid for by the public purse. While the Conservatives talk of bringing down the housing bill, councils have had to spend more than £3.5 on temporary accommodation homeless families in the last 5 years. That bill has rocketed by 43% annually under Conservative leadership. The government's handling of housing is a lesson in inefficiency. It fails to build affordable housing and initiates a range of housing benefit cuts that push families into rent arrears, and then throws taxpayers' money at extortionate bed and breakfasts and hostels, in the process lining the pockets of private landlords. It's similar unsound thinking that sees the Conservatives cut funding for welfare advice centers and debt services minus in essence the safety net that helps struggling people keep their homes minus, and then have to spend 500 to try to mop up the homelessness it helped create. The impact of flawed conservative spending tactics goes beyond housing or benefits to every street in every neighborhood. It emerged this week. The government's decision to pull $3 from local services over the past 5 years means councils are now unable to fund many services, from street cleaning to road safety, as well as overflowing hospitals, cold schools, and shut libraries. Tory spending choices mean even the most basic provisions, such as food and water safety inspection, road school crossings, and CCTV crime prevention, are now crumbling. Imagine the reaction if this was happening under a Labour government. The Sun would be mocking up images of streets drowning in rubbish and rotting debris, while the Mail would carry stories predicting school accidents and pensioner muggings. The left, quite correctly, talks of the human cost of conservative policy, but it's hammering the Tories on the financial costs that will hit them where it really hurts. In any case, whether it's a council paying to keep a young family in a B&B, thief lost their home after benefit delays, or a cancer patient put through the costly tribunal system after being wrongly found fit, work, morality and economics are not neatly separate concepts. That the government has spent years arguing there isn't enough money to properly fund public services, or the benefit safety net, only makes their flawed spending choices more disgraceful. This election, Labour can say it with confidence. The Conservatives are the party of incompetence.